Hello everyone and welcome back to another furniture flipping video. My name is Samuel with Cedar Pine Designs, and in today's video I took this solid wood 1960s mid-century style dresser and give it a facelift while also restoring it. It's very beautiful. It doesn't need very much work, it just really needs a facelift. So let's jump straight into this one and get our hands dirty. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I always start by pulling all the drawers out, any hardware. Thankfully this one doesn't have any hardware. All of the pulls are built straight in, just like as you can see right here. I like to give it a really good cleaning, a once over. I like to check for any kind of damage or anything that I may need to repair later. And I do have to make a couple of little repairs later, and you'll see me take care of those. So let's keep it going. For my cleaning solution, once again, I'm still using TSP's degreaser. Diluted, a bottle can last you months. I mean, this thing has lasted me ever since I started furniture flipping. Trying to get through it because I want to either switch to Crud Cutter or maybe Dawn dish soap. I've heard that Dawn dish soap works pretty well. So far everything looks pretty good. I haven't noticed anything that really needs any kind of repairs, except for a couple of the drawers had a little bit of a rubbing issue, and I'll take care of that by sanding it, and you'll see me do that later on in the video. One of the things that I did notice is that the base seemed a little loose. Maybe the legs are starting to come undone, so I'm gonna flip it over onto its back and then onto its top so that I can inspect the legs and see if there's something that I need to do to correct that. As you can see, there's some play in most of the legs, so I'm using a syringe with wood glue to fill it with wood glue. And I was going to try to take it apart, but I was afraid to ruin the base, so I'm drilling some holes, and I'm going to try to use that to strengthen the legs and to hold them together as the glue dries. So I'm using a drill bit with a built-in countersink on it, so that way I could bevel and angle the screws in to hold the legs down, while also hiding the screws, so that way when the dresser's upright, you will not be able to see those screws. Since the dresser is already turned upside down, I decided to add these little plastic foot bumpers. It just helps it slide around easier, and it's not sitting directly on the wood, so if there was moisture, water, or you were to mop the floor, water wouldn't soak up into the legs and swell up the wood. I knew I wanted to do mostly a wood restoration on this, but I knew that those arches were pretty unique and I wanted to do something to stand out. So I wanted to actually stain the arches and paint the center inserts where the gold paint is black. But after sanding the fronts down to bare wood, I did notice that the archways are made of individual pieces of wood glued together to create the arch, and they are different types of wood, differing in color, so I knew that staining or waxing would give them off color from some of the other ones. So I decided to just paint the arches and strip the centers down, and you'll see in a little bit that after stripping those centers down, there is some beautiful veneer on there. I'm not sure what type of wood it is, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm telling you, this clean stripper really did make quick work of this paint. It ate it up within about 5 minutes. I did let it sit for maybe 7 to 10 minutes, but I mean, it was ready to go within 5 minutes, and it was a bit of a pain though to clean up. As you'll see, I had to do a lot of scraping, and also these archways underneath. It makes for a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it. Once you see the wood veneer on the front, if anybody in the comments or anybody that's watching this video, if you can tell me what type of wood you think it may be, just give me some ideas. I have no idea, to be honest. I'm not very good at identifying wood species, so if anybody can give me some suggestions, I'd really appreciate it. After I get done stripping everything off, I grab some steel wool and some mineral spirits to get off the rest of the residue and paint. Also, mineral spirits deactivates the stripper so it doesn't continue to just eat away. So that's also another good step that stuff is good for. Because I am going for more of a restoration on this one, I'm sanding everything down to wood. So you're going to see a ton of sanding in this video. It could be boring. Sanding, to be honest, is a pretty boring process when it comes to this, but the one thing that I do love is to see once all that finishes off, that wood grain, it's going to look gorgeous. For the body, or carcass as I've heard it been called, I'm using 80 grit sandpaper, and then I step my grits up to 150 and 220. I'm not using a chemical stripper because it seems to take a lot longer, because you have to strip it, mineral spirits, and you have to allow and give time for the wood to dry before you can start sanding it. So it's usually like a two-step process. So I'd rather just start sanding it and just get it going. So I'm staining those inserts first so that I can give it time to dry. I'm using red mahogany. I was going to use dark walnut, but I really like that orangish reddish tint that red mahogany has. So I'm staining the centers first so that I can give them time to dry, because I'm going to tape those stained parts off so that way I can paint all the wood archways. For this project, majority of the work is going to be done on the drawers, because they do have all those archways and those centerpieces. There's masking, there's staining, painting, sanding, clear coating. For the body, pretty simple. I'm just using some stain, 1 to 2 coats depending on the color, and then I give it 2 to 3 coats of clear coat, which you'll see later on in the video. And that's pretty much it for the body. The body was very straightforward. For this piece, it is a commission piece, but it is a piece that I own and that I purchased myself. I was contacted by somebody through Facebook who thought that a client of theirs would really love my work and the style of pieces that I work on. So I showed them a couple of photos of stuff that I had in my inventory. They fell in love with this piece and they told me to just create it however I thought that it would look good. They trusted me, and their client would love it as well. Now that it's been about 12 hours, the stain has had some really good time to dry, especially with the warmer weather. It dries fairly quickly, and warmer weather means more projects that I get to get done because paint and everything dries a lot faster. So I'm using a razor blade to trim off all the excess tape so that way I get a nice crispy line and I can paint all my archways. You'll see in a few seconds, it was pretty tough for me to tape off these archways because there was really no good way to trim it all off really cleanly. So I did have to come in later with an artist's brush and just touch up the inside of the archway. It wasn't really that big of a deal, just a little time consuming. Well, obviously for this piece, I had to go with my favorite limousine black color with a satin finish. I couldn't think of anything else that I would like more to see on this piece if it were mine. So that's what I went with, and the customer was really happy with it. I sent them updated photos during the whole process. It's always good to keep in touch with your clients, especially if you're doing stuff that they give you a little more free range to do what you want, and keep them in the loop so that way they're not totally shocked and surprised when they finally get to see the piece when it's done. For the body of the dresser, I'm using 2 to 3 coats of Verathane's polyurethane water-based satin. And it's my favorite top coat. I don't use anything else if I'm gonna spray on like a hard top coat. It's very durable, it works great, and I've never really had any issues with it. And for the drawer fronts, I decided to use Howard's Feed and Wax on the veneered portions of them because it's gonna make that wood pop. And I didn't show it in the video, but it's the same concept, same steps. I did use black mixed with polyurethane for the top coat for all the arches. Same thing, sanding, 400 grit sandpaper, 2 to 3 coats. It just creates a really good bond, and that's how I like to do things. Now that I'm on some of the final steps of this dresser, I'm gonna finish this up, put all the drawers back in, and then we're gonna take a look at how this used to look before and how it looks after. So by far, this is the most beautiful dresser that I feel that I've ever done, and it was something that I thought that I would keep for myself, but the price that me and the client came up with was way too good for me to pass up. Believe it or not, I did only pay $100 for this piece, and I couldn't believe it myself, but I sold it for $1,500, giving me a $1,400 profit margin at 9 hours of labor, giving me $155 an hour, which is my most profitable project to date. This project definitely was one of a kind. The profit margin, the price that I paid for it, super fun project. I really enjoyed it. It's an absolutely beautiful piece. I hope that everyone watching really enjoyed it as well, and I cannot wait to see you guys on my next project.